Last one. Carla has been making a wildscape in her backyard. The table shows the number of birds visiting her feeder at the same hour on the first day of each month since she began her project. Use a polynomial model to make a reasonable estimate of the number of birds there might be in July. Alright, now, in order for us to work with models, especially when working on the calculator, we need to have numbers. Now, we have the months January, February, March, April, May, June. Those aren't numbers. But for this purpose, I'm going to start off by labeling January as 1, because it's month 1. February I'll label as 2. Oh, that looks weird. Anyways, March I'm going to label as 3, April I'm going to label as 4, May is 5, and June as 6. Now, some of you might prefer to start with 0, which is fine, but you just got to make sure you're being consistent with it. So before I punch this into a calculator, sometimes we can kind of determine what type of function is going to be so that we don't need to test every quadratic and cubic and quartic regression. So let's take a look at our y values, the number of birds. So looking at the first and second differences, maybe third differences, maybe fourth, heck, maybe fifth. But let's check them out. Going from 3 to 8, we add 5. Going from 8 to 18, we're adding 10. Going from 18 to 36, we're adding 18. 36 to 65, we're adding 29. And 65 to 108, we're adding 43. Okay, so it's not linear. Degree 1 didn't work, not linear. Moving on. Going from 5 to 10, we added 5. Going from 10 to 18, we're adding 8. Going from, that's a bad looking 8, let me rewrite that. Going from 18 to 29, we're adding 11. And going from 29 to 43, we're adding 14. Okay, second row didn't work, so it's not degree 2, not quadratic. Keep going. Going from 5 to 8, plus 3. Going from 8 to 11, plus 3. And going from 11 to 14, hey look, that's plus 3 as well. So it's the third row, that means we know it's going to be cubic. Since we know it's going to be cubic, we don't have to check out a quadratic regression or quartic regression, we can just go to cubic regression. So once we punch this into our calculator, remember all of our months, our x values, we're going to enter into L1, our y values, we're going to enter into L2. And so you'll be given directions. You go stat, edit, enter all your months into L1, all your birds into L2. And then you're going to go back to stat, the calc menu, and then go down to cubic regression. And once you go to cubic regression, you end up with a polynomial y equals 0.5 x to the third minus, 0.5 x squared plus 3x. Now, if you started with the January as month 0, that's fine. You're going to end up with a slightly different looking function, but it'll still work. So that's our function. That's how we can predict, or that's the function we can use to predict the number of birds that we have every month. Now it asks us to make a prediction as well. So it says make an estimate for how many are going to be in July. So July, that would be month 7. So if June is month 6, July is month 7. So in order to do that, our months are our x values. So we do 0.5 times 7 to the third minus 0.5 times 7 squared plus 3 times 7. You can go ahead and punch that into your calculator. If you want to do it by hand, great. But once you punch that into your calculator, you end up with 168. So in July, we would approximate that we have 168 birds. Again, if you started off with January as month 0, your function is going to look similar, but it's going to look a little different. So if you started off with January at month 0, your July is going to be month 6. So just be careful. As long as you're being consistent, shouldn't make a difference.